Welcome to Soul Elevation, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and this one's for you, Starseeds. Or maybe you don't yet know if you're a Starseed, and if you found this episode, then I encourage you to consider that you might be getting a hint from the universe about who you really are beyond that human costume. Today's guest gives fascinating insights about his own journey from soldier to galactic Akashic reader. He shares provocative insights about visions he's had of the cosmos, what spiritual and psychic activations have been like for him, including what he calls psychic flu, and he gives insights into my galactic origins, which ring very true for me. As divine timing would have it, I just had someone ask me about an hour before my time with John if I'm a starseed, and if so, from where. And much of what John shares about what he picks up on from me is a reflection of what I shared in that prior conversation. John Napolitano's path to becoming a galactic Akashic reader, psychic, medium, and healer has been anything but conventional. Beginning as a U.S. Marine, then a D.C. police officer, and later a filmmaker, always driven by a deep desire to serve. From childhood, he experienced vivid dreams and premonitions, though a spiritual career seemed unlikely. A life-changing tarot reading in 2020 ignited his psychic awakening, leading to intensive meditation, spiritual study, and psychic development. During a meditation, a galactic being appeared, unlocking memories of his parallel existence as Derek, a Pleiadian Special Forces operator within the Galactic Federation. Through access to the Galactic Akashic records and attunements to higher frequencies, John now helps lightworkers and starseeds uncover their galactic origins and soul journeys. His mission is to guide others in navigating the profound intersection of their human and spiritual experiences. John will be a featured speaker in my upcoming Galactic Summit. Join us August 2nd, 2025 for this free event featuring outstanding speakers in the Galactic Awakening community. They'll offer their perspective on the role of galactic connection with spiritual awakening. In addition to John, we'll have Debbie Solaris, Viviane Chauvet, Tony Ghazi, Neil Gower, Isha Patel, and Daniel Scranton, as well as other wonderful and amazing guests. Get more info at karagoodwin.com. And now, enjoy this episode. Well, thank you so much for being here, John. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you, Kara. Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to start by talking about your journey from the battlefield to awakening your psychic skills. Let's start there.
Sure. Well, it's pretty crazy that it started actually sooner than the battlefield from Iraq. I certainly had mystical experiences in Iraq, but they go back even further than that. All the way back to when I was around 5-6 years old, my great-grandfather, who was 105, passed away. And it was the first death that I remember as a child in the family.
105?
I have good genes in my family. So.
I guess so. Wow.
Mm-hmm. So he passed away at 105, just old age, and when probably a month or two after he had passed away, while I was asleep, I remember all of a sudden him coming. I was like laying in my bed, and he just came from underneath my bed or just below me, and I remember seeing him just as before he passed away, the same old age and everything, but he was off the boat Italian, so he barely spoke any English, used his hands just like many of us Italians do. So he was actually trying to talk with me and using his hands to try to communicate, but I just didn't understand what was going on. I was 5-6 years old, so no clue. And for years afterwards, after I got older, other family members passed away, transitioned, they would start coming to me as well. And they would be talking to me about that they were okay, they had messages for loved ones, that they were trying to just have me. I remember telling my family about it and all that. And, it was always just kind of a matter of a fact, really. I'm psychic. Family members come to me. Sometimes I'll see things that, before they come. Many times it was through the dream state. I'm a big astral traveler, and still I am today as well. And it would get to the point where I would even see events happening either before or right as they're happening. One of the one of the greatest events I ever saw was when I think it was about 22, 23 years old. It was actually a month before I left for Iraq. And in my dream, I was sitting in the water on a beach. I was looking out at the beachfront properties and this city in front of me, and these two giants, like actual giant monsters, just came out of the water right past me. And they walked up on the beach and they started smashing buildings and tossing cars around, throwing them into the water. And when I woke up, I was disturbed. I was like, I don't know what the heck that was about. And then I went downstairs to look at the news and watching the news, and I learned that the tsunami in the West Indies in 2005 just happened overnight. And I had realized I was watching the tsunami as it was occurring in my sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I'm starting to learn more about this. Quite often I will go through the dream state, I'll end up in war zones around the world. So here I am in real life, I've been in war zones, but what happens too is I end up going to war zones as well as other natural disasters around Earth. And what I'm finding out about it is that I have a parallel life. I have a couple of parallel lives off the planet. One's a Pleiadian working with the Galactic Federation, but there was somebody else out there who's a bit more on the mysterious side I'm still learning about, and he's part of a galactic council. And what I'm realizing is that I'm essentially an observer, a watcher for this galactic council here on Earth. So when events occur around the world, I go to them in the astral realm, I observe, and then I report back to this galactic council. And sometimes I don't even realize something's going on around the world until after I see it. And just a few weeks ago, I found myself in a desert area under heavy fire, under heavy attack. And I just heard about the Iranians are coming, get ready. And I woke up after, I'm like, what's going on with the Iranians right now? And, we're trying to figure this out. Well, no kidding. Later, I'm going through my news feed on my phone, and there was major attacks in Syria with the new government and fighting the Iranian-backed militias out there. So.
Wow.
And that's when it occurred to me, okay, this is what I'm doing, is I'm reporting back. Sometimes I'm helping out on Earth as well. I found myself healing lands at times, working with individuals I don't even know around the world at times to help provide guidance and healing, almost as like a spirit guide for them. Mm-hmm. And then at other times I'm reporting back to this Galactic Council, to the Pleiadian and Galactic Federation as well.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, there are so many different questions that come up or ways that I want to take the conversation. I wrote down while you were talking just specifically about Iraq, because I'm learning fairly recently about the importance of the land in Iraq. I really had no idea. Romania, or Iraq, of course, Egypt we know about, but Iraq and Romania have similar kinds of energies in their planetary positions. Has that come onto your radar at all? And do you feel that there was any sort of divine orchestration for your presence in Iraq during wartime?
Honestly, I felt somewhat disconnected while I was there from my spiritual abilities. I certainly had a dream, and I'll mention it momentarily. Iraq, the Euphrates, the Tigris River, these are all cradles of civilization. And I was just actually looking it up the other day, and some of the first civilizations that we know of course, that mainstream media and everyone wants to report on, of course, had reports on. So you had the Assyrians, the Sumerians, you had the Babylonians, the Second Babylonian Empire. Some of the world's first empires were there, and then they would spread out. Persia as well. So you have a lot of old energies there, and these civilizations. These are also, the Sumerians are also the home of the Anunnaki, which essentially is, from what I've seen in the records, the birthplace of humanity as we know it. So a little bit of galactic history I'll insert if you don't mind.
Please.
So The Anunnaki are from the planet Nibiru. This is a planet in the Sirius system around the star of Sirius C. There's also Sirius A, Sirius B. Both of those peoples from those systems have had instrumental and work on here on Earth as well. But the Anunnaki suffered some kind of catastrophic issue on their own planet in Nibiru in Sirius C. So they ended up coming to Earth to essentially, just like the stories say, to mine for our gold. They needed this gold for whatever reason. The technology that they needed to help their planet survive needed the gold essentially within the atmosphere of their planet. I haven't really looked too much into it, but that's what I've seen so far. Well, they came here and were starting to mine it themselves until at some point they became somewhat corrupted. They didn't come here originally as like a service to self negative type of beings, but they were corrupted in a way from desperation, from the negative energies, the lower energies of the earth. And they manipulated the now human genome with their own DNA to create essentially a race of workers for them. And it wasn't until several generations later that Earth humans began to degrade, because there was an incompatibility with the genetics that the Anunnaki inserted into our DNA. And that started to create a catastrophic biological failure of humanity on this planet. Well, Anunnaki did not want those karmic repercussions for that to happen. There is a shred of decency within them. So they ended up calling off planet to the Sirians in Sirius A to help humanity on Earth. That's when Sirius A, the Galactic Federation, Arcturians, Pleiadians, essentially heeded the call, and they started to come here in droves and help humanity and insert their own biological DNA into our own systems to essentially reset our biology, reset our DNA, and save our race. And they established colonies and different groups around the planet, and that's when they ended up really started working with humanity, sharing their spirituality, their technology, spiritual and actual technology. And that's when Lemuria was created, that's when Atlantis was created several thousand years later. And then at that point is when humanity essentially began somewhat of a corruption. That balance of that divine masculine energy and that divine feminine energy that were brought here to Earth started to get corrupted in a way and become imbalanced. And Atlantis essentially became more technological than spiritual, and that led to corruptions within the leadership and the militaries of Atlantis. And they ended up destroying Lemuria, then destroying themselves. So going back to Iraq, because I think I got off a little bit of a tangent.
Yeah, but it's fascinating and relevant.
Yeah. So when I was in Iraq, it's actually funny. I can't tell you for sure it was aliens, but I remember one of the things when we were in Iraq.
I'm not saying it was aliens,
but it was definitely
aliens.
So one of the first things we did when we were in Iraq is we were at a base called El Asad. And at that time, my particular company, my unit, was relegated to guard duty along the perimeter. I just remember one night, we looked up in the sky and we saw these look like stars or small like lights just hovering in a triangle formation, and they'd start falling and then they'd come back up and start falling. So everybody was calling it in. It's like, hey, we got like lights coming up, like, you know, what's going on, the unidentified flying objects. And we just kept getting like, command just kept saying, oh, it's training exercise. It's just flares. Don't worry about it. Or everybody's like, no, something's different. I can't tell you for sure. It might have actually been flares, but it's one of those things that I find interesting. I have heard of reports about UFO activity, actual UFO activity by soldiers in Iraq and fellow troops there over the years. But one time when I was in Iraq, one of the most disturbing dreams I had, even more disturbing than seeing the flooding and the tsunami months earlier, was in my dream, my unit, my squad was reporting to the scene of a vehicle that got hit by an IED, an improvised explosive device. And in the dream, I remember seeing this armored vehicle that had been hit, and I went inside the vehicle, and I ended up seeing all my friends from a different squad had been killed because they were responding to another attack in the city that day. So when I woke up, I felt very disturbed. I'm like, I hope this isn't really going to happen. I was just nervous all day. And then hours later, we got the call. There was a vehicle, or excuse me, there was a squad in the city that we were at that got hit by their an IED. And a couple of guys that we knew were injured. And the squad that I saw in my dream, who was all killed in their vehicle, ended up going out to save the other Marines that had been injured. And we were the next ones up to help them if they got into trouble. So as you can imagine, I was like sweating bullets. I was like really nervous that this could really happen and that this was about to happen. But from what ended up happening was that the Marines in this vehicle ended up taking a different route than they were supposed to. And they went straight to the Marines that were injured. They got them, they medevaced them back to safety, and thankfully nobody was killed that day. So I thought about what was going on in that, and it took a long time. It took years for me to realize what really happened. And once I started understanding realities, alternate realities, I realized that what happened in my dream is that I was experiencing the likelihood of one reality, and I ended up shifting myself into a new reality, an alternate reality, where that squad was never killed, where nobody else was killed that day, and I didn't have to go respond with my other fellow Marines and observe what I saw in that dream.
Oh,
And
wow.
I often think about it as like, where would John be if
Yeah.
he actually had to go on that scene and see all those Marines? Because what I saw in that dream was horrific, and seeing it in real life, and many of the Marines that was in our battalion in Iraq experienced that, where those vehicles were destroyed and they had to come on those scenes. And I don't think I would be here today if I saw that, if I had to come into that scene and see my friends killed like that.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Well, before we go any further, let me please just thank you for your service, because it's amazing that there are souls like you who are out putting their lives on the line for peace.
Yeah.
And it's really touching, and it's the humanity behind it, just the obstacles and the challenges, the terror. I mean, it's hard to fathom. And going back also to the importance of Iraq on this planet, have you heard of a book called Transylvanian Sunrise?
No, I haven't.
It's a bit fringe, and it's really around Romania. Romania
Okay.
being this hugely powerful energetic site with some very classified phenomenon there.
Okay.
But it talks about this pyramid in Romania and what they found, and that there are tunnels out of this pyramid underground, obviously. One that goes, and this is ancient. Like they describe what's in it, and they're trying to get their head around the technology that they're finding, and the like holographic movies of anything you want to see, but only truth. So like the real history of the planet, your biology, you can zoom into the molecular level you can go as deep into your biology as you want, or you can zoom out as much as you want, see the cosmos and all of it, and it doesn't match what we've been taught.
Yeah.
But then there's one tunnel that leads to Egypt, the pyramids of Egypt, and there's another that leads to this strange ancient structure in Iraq. And though the structure in Iraq communicates energetically with the structure in Romania, where like when there's this energetic force field that is deactivated, they have a way that they learned through this hugely powerful psychic, learned how to deactivate the shield, and it immediately brought the shield down in Iraq. So things that I think would be very interested in this book. I just read it like a couple of months ago, and it's fascinating, but I was just curious and I guess like even if you had seen anything like that, I'm sure you're not allowed to talk about it, but it's interesting anyway.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there it makes you wonder like all of the levels and layers to the military involvement in Iraq. But anyway, so shifting from that to the galactic history, because you clearly have a lot of galactic and planetary knowledge. How did this develop?
It was by accident, actually. So a few years ago, we'll go back to 2020. 2020, I'm a filmmaker by trade, and I was set to have the best year, finally, of my career as a filmmaker. We had multiple projects lined up. We were going to go back to Africa for filming documentaries. I was going to film a new reality series. And then mid-March happens. And
What happened in mid-March 2020?
It's
Can't
hazy,
remember.
actually. Yeah, it's a little hazy. The entire world ended, basically. Sometimes I call it, yeah. So I call it sometimes the fall of man because everybody just went crazy. And honestly, at that point, I felt like I was disconnected from filmmaking. It was just stopped. It severed. My business died. I was at home, and I started thinking to myself, like, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Who am I really helping working on political stuff and reality shows? It just felt so disconnected for me, looking at the equipment and thinking about it. I'm like, why do I care about this stuff? And it got to a point where I realized I really don't care about it as much as I used to. I want to help people. And it took a while, and I think actually this was preceded at the end of January, before all the craziness happened for me, is that I remember where I was at my child's birthday party, and all of a sudden I started feeling like really off, and I just got hit like a ton of bricks. I just got hit with some kind of mystery illness. I wasn't throwing up, I wasn't feeling sick. It was just like a lot of shivers and things like that. And it's actually happened several times already this year. What I've learned is have you ever heard of the concept of losing veils? So these are these spiritual
Not
veils.
specifically. Okay. I know that when we go through like upgrades and changes in frequency, there are physical fallouts of that. Yeah.
It is sometimes it can be a fallout. Sometimes it's as simple as like you feel a little off, discombobulated, confused. Maybe it's like you got like a bad night's sleep, but you really didn't. Well, sometimes it's what I call the spiritual flu, or even a spiritual hangover, where it just hits you and it's a ton of bricks. It just comes out of nowhere. Well, this happened to me in early 2020 at the end of January. And I didn't really understand it until my recent loss of veils just a couple of weeks ago, where it was the exact same thing for 24 hours, just pretty much out of it. And I think what happened was I was losing all those veils back in 2020 in preparation for the beginnings of a spiritual awakening that would first start with Dark Night of the Soul. And from there, it turned into like me questioning everything. What am I doing? Why aren't I helping humanity? That's what I've always wanted to do. That's why I joined the military. That's why I joined law enforcement. Why am I not helping humanity? Filming reality shows and political stuff is not actually doing it for me anymore. So I started working on different things, and then a friend of mine got me for my birthday a tarot reading. And I had just started meditating, and so I was like, okay, a tarot reading would be fun. I already know I'm psychic. Maybe she'll pick up on that. Who knows? We go through this tarot reading, and she pulls out this card, and she sticks it in the camera. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was the High Priestess card, if you're familiar with tarot, and very psychic and all that. So she just pulls out this card, and she's like, oh my God, you're psychic. You could be doing this too. You should get a tarot deck. You can start learning. Essentially welcome to the club. And when she said that, it just hit me. And I was like, maybe I could really make this into something. Maybe this is what I've been longing for so long, is to become a professional psychic. I had never thought like that's an actual thing, and only some people can do it. And then when she said that, it just dawned on me. I'm like, maybe that's what I could be doing with my life. I started consuming, as I do, my obsessions. I just started getting obsessed, like, how do I become psychic? I already know I am, but how do I like actually take control and learn more about it? And I started listening to podcasts like yours and so many things out there. Started reading on it, reading spiritual books, reading books on not only spirituality, but world religions, meditating with more of intent and more of a purpose. And then I started taking classes. And once I started taking classes and receiving feedback from fellow students and instructors, that's when things started opening up for me. And then within that first month, I started seeing aliens. And I didn't know why. I didn't know what starseed was back then, or being an incarnated extraterrestrial. But I would be meditating and I would see this gray alien just come in front of me, eyes open and everything, just coming in front of me, and we're just looking at each other. And I'm a little nervous of especially grays, because what I'm learning is that they were the bad guys of the universe. So I'm trying to feel his energy, and it's all neutral. And it's like, he's not communicating with me. The first time I just told him, look, if you don't have anything for me, if you don't have any messages, you got to go. So he left. And then not too long after that, a couple weeks later, I'm about to go to bed, I start seeing these flashes in my vision, and it's just back and forth. And what I realize is that they're trying to communicate with me at this point. So I said, okay,
And still the
send
Grays?
it.
Sorry, still the Grays?
Same dude.
Okay. Okay.
Yep, still gray. Yep.
Same
he still
dude.
He comes back. Same dude. Smano, we're looking at each other, just having a stare off. So I said, if you don't have anything for me, you got to go. So he left. That night I had some pretty disturbing dreams. One of the dreams was me being held hostage by these like students and teachers that I was starting to learn from, that I was taking classes with that month. And I think in a vain attempt, this gray alien was trying to essentially knock me off my path, and try to create some distrust between me and this group of
Seekers.
spiritual teachers out there. So I asked them about that. I was trying to figure it out. Another week later, I get those flashes of light again. I'm like, all right, here he comes. Let's see what he has to say now. Well, instead, I saw all these images. It's like flash of skylines, dark skylines, cloudy documents, war zones. And I got this intuitive knowing that it was about the wars in Orion. And it just came in really fast flashing download. And the next day we had a class, and I asked my teacher, and I was like, I'm getting like aliens coming to me. I'm getting these flashes of documents and things. She said, you're an extraterrestrial, right? I'm like, that's a thing? That's real? Like, she's, yeah, you're a starseed. I'm like, what's a starseed? She's like, you'll know. And I just started consuming from there. Like, again, I went online, I would look, I would try to meditate on it and try to understand. It was a very slow process. It got to the point where one day I was listening to a podcast, and they said, hey, go to this person's website. They have some really interesting images, very accurate from what this other psychic in the podcast had seen. So I went to the website, and I went to the Orion section, and guess who was staring at me? This same
the
gray,
dude?
this same exact one, the same image.
My gosh. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I started consuming everything on that site and going through it. And then months later, I think I'm cooking or something, and I think to myself, I wonder if anyone's teaching the Galactic Akashic records. I think that would be really cool to learn. I know it's very niche, but I did a quick Google search. There was somebody starting class in 2 weeks on the Galactic Akashic records. So I was like, okay, divine timing. My guides, my angels are working with me. So I signed up for it. And
was that Debbie Solaris by chance?
It was. Yeah, I went through her class. Have you gone through that class before?
I haven't, but she's a guest. I haven't released the episode yet, but it's coming out in early June.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
She's awesome. I love her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there she is. She changed everything for me. So I started taking her course. I started reading one of her required books. It was called Akashic Records by Linda Howe. And when I started reading the book, I remember reading, it says it might take about 10 days to a month to start getting really into the Akashic Records, to start practicing. Well, within a few days, maybe a week or so, I found myself feeling different frequencies while I slept. And while I was working within these frequencies in my sleep, I realized what was going on. I could feel lighter, and then I'd feel like I was like lowering down into lower dimensions. And I said, okay, well, let me try going up to the 6th dimension. So I'd go up to the 6th dimension, and then I'd feel like I could just feel like how light and airy it felt. And then I'd say, okay, well, bring me all the way down to 3. And I felt this like crushing feeling, like if I'm going under like water really deep, I could just feel it crushing me. I'm like, you know what? Let me go back up to 4th, 5th. I'd rather hang out there. So I started feeling these frequency changes, and then when I was working, just essentially, I would start thinking about different people, or if I saw somebody's name, or if I was in class, I started to get knowings of where they came from, their starseed archetype, essentially. Interesting enough, I think when I learned from Debbie Solaris is that she reads people's auras, and she can see their starseed archetype within their aura. For me, it's more of a knowing. And it's gotten to the point now where I can look at somebody and their face is changing, their skin is changing. I'll see things like angel wings, or I'll see their ears changing, or fairy wings. So I can see the different aspects of your spiritual DNA. And once I start tapping in even further, I can actually see like what certain amounts you have, and then go back and we can look straight into your soul's incarnations, not just here on Earth or in the galactic realm, but even in the fairy realm as well, and even some angels out there.
It begs the question of, if, as you're looking at my image, if that's happening to you, and we can come back to that because that's fascinating. I can't not ask that question because we're face to face right now. But the whole time, like, since this started happening like 15 minutes ago or something, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow. But I'm like, why do I feel silver with you? Like, I feel the silver. It's in my back. It's like a tunnel of silver. It's very sleek. And does this mean anything to you? Like, it feels like it's something I'm picking up on from you. Does that mean anything? Like, how do I feel silver with you? I don't know.
That I don't know. You're picking
Okay.
up on something. I know I'm still learning more about myself. Interesting enough, I'm a lot harder to read for myself.
That
And
does make sense.
yeah, so there's a lot of mystery shrouded. Talking about that Pleiadian self, that galactic council member, those are things that have taken a while for me to really pull out. And I'll see them through dreams, I'll see them through meditations, but they're very shrouded in secrecy. What ended up actually, I think, starting really getting things rolling with me and understanding some of the differences in my spiritual makeup and my galactic makeup is I had a dream or knowing that I should get attuned for Reiki. So I was meditating one day and my fingers just started tingling, like I could feel almost like firecrackers going off on them. And now I learned it's the chakras in my fingers that were starting to activate. So I went and I got the Holy Fire 3 Reiki attunement, thinking, oh my God, this is going to blow me open, bust me open. All my psychic abilities are going to come flying through. And after the attunements, I thought about it. I'm like, well, that was really disappointing. I didn't feel anything. Like, what's up? I don't know, have you ever been attuned for Reiki before? So you probably know what I'm talking about, that usually you start feeling something. Well, I didn't feel anything. So I went home and I'm like, well, let me just meditate on it. Let me just kind of see what's going on. Well, within a minute of meditating, I felt a burning on my forearm. And the burning went up my arm. It went onto my shoulders, it went onto my chest, all the way down the other arm, my face, my back was on fire. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I don't know what is happening here. Well, I emailed the Reiki master that gave me the attunement, and she didn't really have anything for me. She didn't have any information. Fast forward a couple months later, I'm receiving another Reiki attunement from my mentor, my psychic teacher, and she's okay, get comfortable, get relaxed, we're gonna do this attunement. Well, soon as she did that, I started feeling again the burning on my forearms. I started feeling really off and funky. I'm like, what is going on? And she's like, okay, something's weird here. What's going on? So she taps in, and my eyes started fluttering. I'm like, what am I doing? Am I having a seizure or something? What is going on? And she comes back and she's like, look, you just have this security barrier that came all the way over you, like this big white wall security. She's like, I've never seen anything like that. There was no Holy Fire Reiki attunement in you. I was like, because it got burned off. When I had it done a couple months earlier, that Reiki attunement just left my system. My energy system rejected it. And she's like, I had to ask permission to go into your energy system and get in there to place the attunements for the other Reiki modalities. And she's like, when I got in there, there was just chakras upon chakras. They're, whatever you are, it's not human. It's not,
Wow.
it's way different. So that's when I started realizing like, okay, there is something different about me. It's just not my ego thinking, oh, I'm so cool, like whatever. No, it's like there's a difference in there. So it's been a slow process of actually learning. Like it's like a security barrier that's learned. And I've been given hints about it over the past like few years, like negative beings trying to attack me in my sleep. I could feel this energy, like that was that white barrier of energy coming around me, and it essentially it's like push them back. And so I've understood that there's something going on back from childhood when things like that would happen, and now I'm starting to get like an understanding of what's really happening.
That's fantastic. And I feel like that's part of the journey, the mystery of being here as a human as well, where, I think, in my opinion, part of the opportunity that we have as souls experiencing a human lifetime is the mystery. That's part of why there's an appeal of the third dimension, is the actual separation of ourselves from source and our history and the forgetfulness and finding our way back. And so if it all comes to us all at once, then one, there's a huge energy shift that happens with the knowing that we might not be ready for, capable of holding. It could blow us out. But two, the fun of it, just the pure joy of like so much is still a mystery. And I have had to come to terms with that because I just want to know. I'm just like, and that's always one of my like, oh, just tell me, just show me. And it's like, but then there's so much joy in the revelations that come. There's really nothing like having new revelations and the joy of that connection when it feels really strong. Today has been one of those days of just like, oh, the connection just is so strong today which is obviously the day we're recording, but even it's only noon on my time. And already it's been like a really powerful God-filled day. And if we already know everything, we bypass the fun of revelation.
Yeah, think about what I grew up with was like Nintendo growing up, like the original Nintendo, and I always was excited to find out those cheat codes as a kid.
Yes,
Like up, up,
yes.
down, down, back, and I would do that for I think I would do it for the game Contra all the time. I loved playing that game.
It
And
was
then I
Super
got the
Mario
cheat
Brothers
codes.
for me.
Yeah,
I had the cheat codes for
exactly.
Mario Brothers.
And I remember just like you got unlimited ammo, like you're invincible and all that. Well, after, I don't know, maybe a half hour of just gleefully fighting through every stage, I got bored. I got seriously bored. I'm like, you know what? This isn't as fun as I thought it would be. And that's what you're talking about, is
Yeah.
having all the knowledge, having all the understanding, and having those cheat codes to life. You just get bored. Like everyone would get bored, you know?
Yeah.
And our soul's journey, whether it's in the galactic realm, the earth realm, the fairy realm, or anywhere else, like it's all about learning. It's all about getting going through those hard times and learning for our soul's evolution, for our journey, ultimately to go back to source with all this information and just have a clear understanding of how to live life, whatever realm that's in.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, then going back to what you were saying about how when you're looking at somebody, you're just seeing this stuff come out. Is that happening as we're talking, or is that something that you move into your channeling and then that you experience that?
Oh no, that's been happening since we started talking.
Okay,
It's
you
actually
want to share
interesting.
anything?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because like they're like cheating with me right now because like I think your connection's a little off, so it's like your video's a little plotchy or splotchy right now. So it's like, so I've been like watching and connecting anyway the whole time, and what I'm seeing is you have an Andromedan background, Andromedan constellation. So your skin's been getting kind of this palish purple color. You have a strong Syrian connection as well. I was getting Syrian mystery schools. Let me see where you are in there. Are you familiar with some of this background, so you're able to tell me if I'm hitting the mark or
Yeah,
not?
you're spot on. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm getting warrior energy from you. That was in Andromeda.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, you can kick a reptilian's butt. Like, yeah, I'm seeing you could go hand back then with them. This like 12-foot, like pale purple Andromedan warrior, like princess. And like you'd go toe to toe with them if needed.
Interesting.
Let's see, Pleiadian life. I'm seeing medical field on a starship. This is Pleiadian Starfleet, not the Galactic Federation. Life as a medical, you're utilizing energies. It's almost like some of these sci-fi shows are starting to show these like medical beds that use like frequencies and different things like that. Like you're utilizing these types of medical beds for treatment and healing of others. Orion, you were on a Pleiadian starship during the Orion Wars, treating wounded Pleiadian soldiers, other Galactic Federation members that would come to your ship from the battle lines and from wars, space battles as well. You also have fairy in you. Let's see. Yeah. So you've had some lives as elves. I'm seeing the tall elves, not like those little Keebler cookie making ones. This is more of like the taller elves. These are like the ones that you'd see on like Lord of the Rings and things like that. So they're cheating. Like your image is so like blotchy right now. They're like, okay, John, you got to use like different senses now if you want to tap into this. Like, they're messing with me. So let me see. Let me go into my mind's eye, and I'll use that for now. A lot of work with trees. You weren't a tree. I've interviewed with people who have actually been incarnated as trees before, but I'm not seeing that. What I'm seeing with you is that as this elf, you worked within trees. It looks like plant medicine, gaining energy, healing trees with your own Reiki abilities and your own healing abilities. Is this track for you? Do you have connections with trees and feeling their energy? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I was just working with a tree like 2 days ago.
There you go.
And every time I even drive by it, I'm like, there's my tree. It's not on my property.
No. Do you talk to the trees?
With my mind. I don't, not very often. I mean,
You're
I was
not
like
actually
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, not so much. I think when I was with it a couple of days ago, I was thanking it, and I'm sure I said a little bit, but it was more with my hands and with my mind.
Yeah. Well, you can tap into the actual, like the communication of the tree network, getting close to them or telepathically, because they communicate. They know what's going on around the world. I've heard of some of the psychics out there that have deep connections with trees that knew that COVID was coming or that they were feeling it, they were getting communications. And they're using that, I guess they call it like maybe the root network or the mycelial network to communicate around the world. And if you're tapped into those like you are, you could start communicating and learning what's going on around the world to other trees and what they're seeing and what they're feeling out there.
Wow. I love that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So, sometimes they can even pull you into portals as well. So when I was in Hawaii a couple of years ago, and I went to, I forgot which one it was, maybe Manoa Falls or something like that. It was a really well-known tourist spot at the falls. But I went and I did a meditation right near the falls. And as I was walking back, there was one tree just in the middle of the walking path. And I could just feel that it was in distress. And it was like, I don't know why I feel this. I don't really talk to trees. Well, I walked up to it and I could just feel that I was in distress. So I put my hands on it and I could feel an actual portal. Like I actually felt like almost like this like sucking feeling, like it was actually trying to drag me through this portal. And I had to actually let go because I was like, what is going on? Like I never felt anything like that waking. Yeah, it was just trying to pull me through. On my way, I sent it love. I said, you're going to be okay. No need to be distressed anymore. On the way back to the parking lot, I saw another tree and he was lonely. And he's like, it's like poor, like big, huge tree. I forgot what it is, but beautiful tree. And he's just lonely. Everybody walks past him. He's right in the parking lot. Doesn't get the love like the others do. And I just said, hey, I see you. I love you too. But this is all things that you could be doing as well. And coincidentally, while I was there is when the wildfires in the other island were taking place.
Oh, in Maui?
In Maui, yeah.
Wow.
So I think the one tree that was in distress was feeling the distress of that one big tree in Maui that caught on fire.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was horrible. Wow. John, I feel like we just scratched the surface, and yet can't believe how much we've crammed into this time. Is there anything, as we wrap up here, with your skills and the things that you tap into and that you have tapped into for clients or just through your own journeys, your own psychic skills, anything that is important that you want to leave with our listeners in terms of things that are coming or things for them to tune into or anything like that? Does anything come up for you?
Well, some of your listeners and some people might be thinking, why the Galactic Akashic records? What's the point of it? Why do I need to know where I was on Vega or Orion? What's that really matter? That's in the past. Some of the people that have been doing this for a while and they're learning about their own past lives and how it can actually affect us may realize, look, our past lives affect us now as well. Time doesn't really exist. On Earth, we perceive it as something linear, but really it isn't. It doesn't exist. So what's happening in a past life 10,000 years ago can be affecting you now. And what you do in this lifetime can affect that past life as well as our parallel lives, our alternate realities. We could go on for a couple hours on that one. But the reason, and interestingly enough, I actually just had a reading earlier today where I was asked to do a soul fragmentation reintegration. And sometimes what happens as a soul, if you're killed in a manner that is traumatic or you experience an extremely traumatic event in your life, parts of your soul can actually fragment from the soul whole, the whole of it. And sometimes what happens is you need to go and get those pieces, those fragments, and then reintegrate them into your life. So what we did today is we did one in a galactic realm where there was an attack on a planet and it was actually destroyed during the Orion Wars. And my client, she was one of the soldiers on the planet that was killed, and she had lost several fragments of her soul from it. So we had to go collect them from all these different parts, and I even found another fragment from an accident from a different time period, a different life, and we went and reintegrated them into her system. Beyond the gee whiz, where have I come from, what kind of an alien I am, it's fun to learn, it's fun to know. When we really get into it, we look at where's the healing, what are the lessons from these different lives, and even how can we integrate these lessons, or how can we integrate these powers from this different life, whether maybe you were a great leader in a life in Sirius, and you want to integrate that strength and that knowledge that you had from that life into your present incarnation. We can do this, what I like to do is a heart-to-heart chakra integration, where we essentially bring that past life forward and allow you to integrate that into your own life now and feel those energies. Sometimes we've had past lives where we had like those types of superpowers where we could create portals in that sixth dimension or that fifth dimension, where here we can't really do that because we're still stuck in this third dimensional matrix. So what we can do is bring that life forward, similar way, and do a integration of those powers to allow your soul to be able to create those abilities and help remove blockages and other barriers so that you can work within those frequencies and those energies in this life.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's so powerful. And I could kind of feel that as you were talking about the sort of phasing the gifts of a different incarnation into this and integrating it, and also that soul fragmentation, because we can have that in the human experience. That's been the key thing that keeps coming up in this year for me personally, where it's like all these kind of things I've forgotten that were more on the traumatic side of my life, not huge traumas, but just things that I had forgotten and deliberately forgotten to try to move forward. And then they come into my mind and I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot about that. And there's an immediate desire to just reject the memory. And then there's oh wait, no, this is an opportunity to reclaim that, and the work of the reclamation and the integration. And it just adds energy back to us, energy that where there have been gaps or where we have had frozen energy that's not able to run, or rejected energy, or however, there are lots of different manifestations of it, but it's a really important opportunity. So I love taking it to the galactic level and seeing how that then plays out in the wholeness of what's available for us here in this life. So that's amazing. Thank you so much. How can people connect with you?
Sure. You're welcome to go to my website if you want to learn more about me. My story is on there. On my website, I have a whole section of galactic history on there, as well as some teaser readings. I wanted to create as much resources as possible for anyone, regardless if you feel inclined to have a reading or healing from me. I just wanted to help. I'm an educator by nature. So I created a whole history section that I had channeled, and that came from my readings, as well as creating a whole section of different teaser videos, a couple like small minute-long clips from past readings with some video and some music and everything, trying to integrate that filmmaking career into my life. And then also we'll be offering retreats, in-person retreats, as well as classes coming in June.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, thank you, John, so much. This has been so much fun. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Kara. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to this episode of Soul Elevation. Please take a moment to think about someone in your life who might be uplifted or have their curiosity sparked by this content, and send it on to them. Let's keep sharing high frequency, empowering content to reinforce the highest potential for humanity. I also invite you to subscribe to this content. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you for the next episode of Soul Elevation.